Nestling in the dip just behind me here is the Valley Lake, and it's an absolute gem of a little water. Not only geographically is it between the car park lake and the main lake, but it's also in between the two in terms of its difficult levels. Now, the Valley Lake is the perfect stepping stone from the car park lake, which we're going to look at shortly, which is a great lake to get a bite on, cut your teeth, learn carp fishing in some cases. But once you progressed a bit and you want to catch some 20s, 30s, maybe a bit bigger, the Valley Lake is the one. It's cram full of beautiful, heavily plated 20-pound carp, quite a few 30s and up to 37 pounds, and they're still getting bigger and bigger. There's no doubt in my mind that in the coming years, there'll be a 40-pounder swimming around down here as well, such is the success of the growth story of the fish on this site. The fish are predominantly mirror carp. There's a few commons, but they're characteristically very heavily plated, stunning, stunning looking carp. The lake's not very big, as you can see. It goes around in a kind of bootleg shape behind us, but it's very manageable. It's very picturesque, very serene. One bank is no fishing, and because it's only a 40 or 30 yard cast, people tend to fish across to it, walk round and bait up. And the water responds very, very well to floater fishing. All in all, if you want some action-packed fishing for a very, very good stamp of fish, then the ticket on the Valley Lake is very hard to beat. And the last stop on our little Fryerning tour is the car park lake, which is a very manageable acre or so, maybe a little bit less. And it's one of those great carp waters where you can always go to get a bite when you're down on your luck. Sometimes the guys come off the main lake and have a little dabble. It's a great place for, I call it a lads and dads water. So it's a great place for that sort of thing to go on. And if you're trying to cut your teeth carp fishing, or you just fancy getting a few bites, which, let's face it, we all love doing, this is the lake for you. I've come down here and caught carp when it's been absolutely bitterly cold. In the depths of winter, they can bite it, when the weather's at its absolute worst. It's also a place where you can amass quite a big hit of fish. It's a well-stocked lake. You can tell by the colour of the water. Chris has deliberately left this as the bites water on the complex. So it's very, very well stocked. Lots of doubles, some 20s. There are one or two low 30s as well. But generally speaking, probably average is about 15 pound, which is more than big enough for me when I want to get a bend in the rod. And the fish can be quite amenable to a bit of bait. They're not too hard to find. So if you look for where they're fizzing, look for where they're rolling, and put a bit of bait to them with a spom or maybe with a catapult, you can build up a good hit of fish. I've come down here with clients and we've done day trips with guys who have never caught a carp before, and we've caught 10 or 15 in a day. And I remember one particular occasion, every fish got bigger until we finished up with a 21 pounder. And that's the sort of fishing you can expect on a car park lake, and I love it for that. It's uncomplicated, unfettered, runs water, which is as scenic and beautiful as any you'll find. Fairly shallow, clay bottomed like like the other lakes on the site. No real snags. Just a lot of fun to be had. Well stocked, and can offer you a bite or a good hit of fish at any time of year. That's the car park lake. One of the things that makes Fryerning so unique in terms of its fishery management is that all of the fish are homegrown, bred and reared here, and form a cyclical chain of supply, so that there's no risk of bringing in fish from outside that may be carrying disease. There are numerous stock ponds down at Fryerning. This is one of 10 different stock ponds. You can see some of the fish maybe just cruising around behind me. Now this is the future. These fish have been grown in the laboratory from eggs, and now they've been grown to doubles in here, and when they get a bit bigger, they'll be put around the site. And that ensures the future of Fryerning as a fishery. It only supplies itself from within. There's no risk. Healthy, homegrown fish of the very highest calibre. Well, how about this? Practically an aircraft hangar dedicated to the growth and development of monster carp. And this is where it all started. As I said to you, the carp have been developed and grown on site here and hand-picked for their genetic capability to become monster carp. Behind me was where the tanks, the rearing pens and all the hot water trickery went on. And the end result is in the lakes all around us now. And I'm pretty sure I've travelled around a lot of lakes. I've never seen such a facility, such a dedication to the growth and management of fish stocks as this. It is a research and development laboratory which Chris and his team have ploughed a lot of money in, but now they're reaping the return with some of the most impressive fish stocks that you'll ever see. That is dedication. So we're down on the valley and we're going to have a brief chat about the tactics that are required to succeed on this lake. Now, although it's a well-stocked 20s and 30s water, the fish are, again, they're no pushover and you need to angle for them with a bit of guile and a bit of respect. So some of the tactics that have worked for the members down the years include surface fishing. This is a fantastic surface fishing water, and I'm watching a few of the fish cruising around out behind me enjoying this humid weather and thinking I might have a little go myself once we're finished working. Other things that work really well in here, things like particle around the edge, the usual sort of combination, sweet corn and hemp works really well. Fish love boilies on here as well, and also method mixes. That's always been a very successful tactic over here, so bear those things in mind. There's only one real feature out here, which is a big gravel bar which is situated in the main bowl end of the lake. But the thing that strikes me about the Valley Lake is how perfect it looks for margin fishing. You've got lots of overhangs and reeded areas and so on. If I was coming on here to do a bit of fishing, I would certainly be looking to fish very, very close on the marginal shelf. So bear those things in mind, and if you're coming down to the valley, you'll be in your own little bit of heaven. Okay, so we're going to have a quick look at some of the tactics required to be successful on the main lake down at Fryerning. Again, as I've mentioned, it's a testing big fish venue. The fish are no fools, and they take some angling for to get caught with any kind of regularity. They've seen it all over the years, let's say that. So the thing to bear in mind with on the big lake, on the main lake, is that there is a population of crayfish, and so that does mean that we need to take that into account when we're thinking about tactically how we're going to approach these carp. Personally, I prefer to keep things very, very simple. I'll show you my rig in a moment. So a simple, straightforward rig. Avoid things like tungsten putty, because if you balance things with putty and the crayfish eat it, then you're kind of left with a mini zig rig. Plastic hook baits are favoured by a lot of the syndicate members, and the fish can be caught on a variety of tactics. A lot of fish do get caught on singles and two bait stringers. But at certain times of the year, the fish can be caught over big beds of bait. Although I think it's probably fair to say that that tactic hasn't worked so well of recent years. The best anglers that I've seen, or the most successful anglers that I've seen down here, have just baited fairly lightly with a throwing stick or even fish bags and have caught quite well. So when I came down to Fryerning, I determined that I was going to fish a boilie approach, which I've done for the majority of my time down here. I've done some solid bag fishing, and I've caught some fish like the nun fishing over areas that I baited with a spom. If I'm doing that kind of fishing, I like to mix up hemp and boilie crumb. Boilie crumb is fantastic for keeping fish in the area, and also if the crayfish do wander into the area, it's very difficult for them to clean an area completely of crumb. You know, there's a smell down there, a hue of aroma on the bottom constantly. So that's a successful tactic that I've used down here in the past. And if I'm not doing that, then solid bags have accounted for a few fish for me, and as has boilie fishing. Straight boilie fishing has caught me the biggest fish out of here, or my biggest fish out of here, the germ, and a few others. And the approach that I tend to favour, I'm just getting eaten alive by something on my arm there, excuse me. It's the summer heat now, everything's coming out, the carp are cruising around looking like they're going to spawn, and it's a beautiful day down at Fryerning. But I digress. The rig that I tend to use for my boilie fishing is very, very simple. So I have a very short length of lead core leader, which I've removed the lead from. It's not against the rules to use lead core, but just for personal preference, I like to keep everything nice and supple and safe in case I ever lose a rig. I've got a top bead set 4 inches or so up from the lead. Some of the bottom here at Fryerning on the main lake can be quite soft and choddy. I generally tend to fish the firmer areas, but this rig was fishing on a softer piece of bottom. Whatever lead size I need to get to the fish, I do tend to favour a lead of sort of 3 ounces or more, because some of the really big crayfish, if you've got 1.5 ounces of lead on, they can walk off with the whole ensemble. And down on the hook link end, I favour a short, stiff piece of fluorocarbon. So I've got a loop by the swivel, overall length about 4.5 inches, a nice big hook. They're massive carp in here. I don't worry too much about hook size, but one of the reasons I've got this big size 4 barbless hook on is because I'm fishing a big hook bait. And this is a toughened, hand-rolled hook bait, which is about 22mm in size. And around that I've enmeshed it in fox armour mesh to give it the resistance and resilience to defeat the crays. I can leave it out there all night with confidence. In fact, this bait has been out all night, and you can see it's still angling perfectly well. It's a little bit chewed in places, but what I've done with this shrink wrap is I've put it through 4 times. So I put it through, sealed it, put it through, sealed it, and it's kind of like a plunger system, like a PVA funnel system. Keep putting the boilie through. So I've got 4 layers of mesh on there, and on the last ones I just take a lighter, blob it down so that there's no tag ends that can come undone, blob down the other side, and that's that. The last thing that you need to do, if you use super sharp hooks as I do, which are hand honed using the Jag kit, then it is a good idea to put a bit of dissolving foam on the hook point, because sometimes the point of the hook can get caught in the mesh on the cast, and you don't like that, and you don't really want that. So that's the setup, very simple. A supple hair, as you see, I've got a sliding supple hair and a stiff hook link. That caught me the germ and a fair few others. It's simple, but very, very effective. There's a couple of other things to consider. Fryerning is a barbless only water, has been for ever since it's been created, as far as I'm aware. And you know, the testament, or the fish's mouths are testament to the validity of that rule. The fish are in pristine condition in Fryerning. It's been a barbless hook water for a very long time, and the fish are thriving. So bearing that in mind, I would advise against coming here and fishing with really slack lines and a barbless hook, because as I said earlier, these fish are very pressured fish, and if you're fishing a barbless hook on a very, very slack line, you're giving them unnecessary chance to get away with it. And believe me, they will mug you off if you give them half a chance. So I tend to fish with my tips down low, a direct, not bowstring type, but a direct line with a good sized bobbin, so I'm getting indication as soon as anything moves the bait. If you get little creeps of the indicator, little knocks, don't worry, they're just crayfish knocking the line on the bottom. If you get a carp, you'll know about it, and it will usually ramp off. So that's just a little brief appraisal of the tactics that I've employed to success on the main lake, as have other much better anglers than myself. I joined Fryerning, one of the reasons I joined Fryerning was to do some surface fishing, and I've long harboured an ambition to catch a 40-pound carp from the surface, and it strikes me that Fryerning Main Lake might just be the place to do that. No one really does it up here, and I've just been waiting and waiting for an opportunity to do that. So I'm going to get this cast out. It's a beautiful evening. Our day's work is done here. I'm going to flick the rods out for a little while, and if it's like this tomorrow, I'm going to see if I can get a big carp off the top on floaters. But I hope you've enjoyed watching, and if you come down to Fryerning, I'll have the kettle on for you. Come and say hello.
This is a fish called 4-scale, 39 pound 4 ounces, which is a new floater PB for me. After 15 years of trying to beat my previous best, saw this girl take the bait, an epic scrap. I'm just honestly speechless. Carp fishing has the power to stupefy me. What an amazing creature. Thank you, Fryerning. Well, after being blown away by a 39 pounder from the surface on a floater, the next couple of nights went without any result. I've been working my socks off trying to get a bite, and the fish, there's been nothing caught on the bottom over bait for a while now, and it's really hard going, as all the guys will tell you. But been playing around with zigs and changed colour, changed depth, the usual story, and eventually, whilst I was packing down at the end of my session, I had a bite, just one bleep, and this creature was the result. By far the biggest fish I've ever had on a zig. That's 37.2, and we're not sure of the name, but what a creature. Fryerning magic. Another PB, a zig PB, and a session I won't forget in a long time. Wow.